Perfectly executed, precision-timed, yet who are the faces on the Funnymen? When one thinks of silent film comedy, usually two names come to mind, Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. In reality, there were dozens of comedians making audiences laugh in the 1920s. Introducing three forgotten but equally talented clowns guaranteed to make you smile. In the 1920s, Lloyd Hamilton earned the respect and admiration of his fellow comedians for inventing a character that borrowed from no one. With his checkered cap, swishy walk, and often sour expression, Hamilton's mix of pathos and wild comedy placed him as a potential candidate among the great clowns. In his life, Lloyd Hamilton came so close to reaching the top, yet was hounded by his own bad luck as if to be cursed. Few comics lit up a darkened theater brighter than Lupino Lane. Next to Buster Keaton, he was the finest comic acrobat of the silent screen. 5'3" and made of rubber, Lane bounced and tumbled his way through dozens of lightning-paced comedies. A veteran of the English music halls, Lane's greatest successes were found on the stage, but he did pause long enough between engagements to record a few prime examples of a long-gone form of entertainment. Charley Chase is picking up the boss's girlfriend for a wild party. Whistle 3 times, he is told, and she'll throw down a key. Actor, writer, director. Charley Chase's genius as a comedian lay in his ability to mix slapstick, farce, satire, even black humor, and mask them behind a reasonably normal leading man persona. Yet underneath the mask lay an extremely original comic mind. Heaping embarrassing situation upon embarrassing situation, then letting him work his clever way out of it, is the foundation for almost every classic Charley Chase comedy. On the threshold of major stardom, he would be suddenly eclipsed by 2 other comedians. Lloyd Hamilton was born in 1891 to an upper-class California family. A custard pie in the face was Hamilton's introduction to motion pictures, and he so disliked the work he vowed never to appear in the movies again. A year later, Hamilton was back in front of the cameras, playing everything from Mexican bandits to country bumpkins. Hamilton found his first great success playing half of a comedy team called Ham and Bud. The short one is Bud Duncan. Ham and Bud were a sociopathic team perfectly capable of murder and larceny even against each other. Here they planned to steal all the furniture in their boarding house by gassing all the tenants into unconsciousness. Ham realized that to become a major comedy star, he would have to create a more sympathetic character. Ham described his new screen character as shabby genteel, a bizarre fellow whose existence pushed the envelope of fantasy and silent comedy. The Hamilton comedies caught on quickly, and in the early 1920s, he was one of the screen's most popular stars. Stepping back a few thousand years, Lupino Lane and his real-life younger brother Wallace are slaves disguised as gladiators in their great spoof on Ben-Hur. Together, Lupino and Wallace shared a clockwork precision that could only be genetic, developed from years of working together in the music halls. Much of the lineage of silent film comedy can be traced to the stage. With few exceptions, nearly all the important silent clowns had their beginnings in vaudeville or the English music halls. Charlie Chaplin and Stan Laurel are the country's most famous exports. Vaudeville and even burlesque were rich training grounds for American comedians such as Buster Keaton, Harry Langdon, W.C. Fields, and even Abbott and Costello. Charley Chase was one of the first comedians to develop complex storylines and have brilliant gags evolve from the story. Here, Charlie discovers his wife out with another guy, him. Charlie had his teeth fixed. His wife had a nose job. They met at a party, didn't recognize each other, and flirted. Now, back at home, Charlie will keep up the charade to teach his wife a lesson. Born in Baltimore, Maryland in 1893, as a teenager, Charley Chase was performing on stage, dancing and singing Irish songs. Quickly, he worked his way up from burlesque to vaudeville, to Broadway, and finally, top comedy director for King of Comedy, Mack Sennett. Lloyd Hamilton was one of the most popular and successful comedians of the time, but his plunge into feature films was disastrous, and the failure devastated him. The quality of the Hamilton comedies declined sharply. Ham's career was dealt another serious blow when at a party he was throwing in Hollywood, a prizefighter was fatally stabbed. For a year, Ham was banned from the screen. When the ban expired, Hamilton signed a contract for a new series of talking comedies. The shorts were a hit, audiences glad to have their old favorite back. But just as a comeback seemed complete, bad luck struck again. Ham was hit by a car and forced off the screen for another year. At the age of 44, he lapsed into a coma and never recovered. Lloyd Hamilton's comedy struggles to exist today, even as he did in his final years. Before he was 10 years dead, the negatives to his major films were destroyed by fire. Lupino Lane was a member of one of the world's oldest theatrical families. The Lupinos had begun as a troupe of Italian puppeteers who later emigrated to Great Britain in the 17th century. Forsaking puppets for dance and the theater, generations of Lupinos entertained English audiences. Lane easily made the transition from stage to screen, and his short comedies were an immediate hit. Lupino Lane starred in a number of early talking musicals, then returned to the British stage where he became an institution, soaring to heights never reached in America. A devoted husband and family man, he died in 1959. During his long career as writer and director, Charley Chase worked with many of the great comedians: Lloyd Hamilton, Harold Lloyd, the Three Stooges, and he was instrumental in developing the R-Gang comedies. By 1927, Chase was the star comic at the Hal Roach Studios, the best comedy shop in town. Charley was being groomed for feature films, and his future looked incredibly bright. For two reasons, that never came to pass: Laurel and Hardy. Chase had been around to watch the team gradually come together and spread their wings. Stan Laurel had worked on and off for Hal Roach for a number of years as both director and comic. Chase himself brought old friend Oliver Hardy to the Roach Studios, where he supported Chase and many other comedians. When the first Laurel and Hardy comedies hit the theaters, they were a smash. Finding himself in the #2 spot on the lot he helped to build, Charley Chase nevertheless continued to churn out superb comedies. The boss's frisky girlfriend in a dead faint, a suspicious house detective, and the formidable Mrs. Chase home early to hold a seance to learn if Charley is being faithful. Another typical Charley Chase situation. Katharine Grant was the first of what would be a long line of top-notch leading ladies appearing with Chase. Charley used his feminine co-stars better than any other comedian. All developed a special chemistry with Chase on screen. Charley Chase resumed his career in front of the camera after a decade of writing and directing. His initial problem was finding a unique comic personality. One theory he had was that all comedians should pick another comedian whom they admired, one who was as different physically as possible from themselves, and play each scene as they thought he would play it. Chase's model was good friend Lloyd Hamilton. When other people saw the end results, they could see no resemblance. But when Chase played a scene, he always thought, how would Ham play this? Took Charley Chase a film or two to find the right mix of gags, situation, and action. But when he found it, almost immediately he was recognized as one of comedy's top stars. When Hal Roach phased out comedy shorts in favor of feature films, Chase was let go and signed with Columbia Pictures, working in front of and behind the camera. In 1940, he suffered a massive heart attack and died at the age of 46. Since his death, Charley Chase's 16 years of outstanding comedy work have virtually disappeared. Had he lived, he might have made the transition to television, his style of humor fitting so easily into the situation comedy format. The offhand brashness of Lloyd Hamilton, the sophisticated wit of Charley Chase, the stunning acrobatics of Lupino Lane. Each developed a unique comedy character and were old friends to audiences of the silent era. Their styles of comedy are just as dazzling today.